Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another food video with Chef Bami. So today I'll be showing us how to make fried rice using 3 different methods. The idea is to achieve fried rice at the end of the day. So it depends on what you want to achieve. Some like their fried rice colored, some like it dry, some like it moist. So it all depends on what you want to achieve. It's just like going somewhere, for instance, and there are different routes to that place. So you can decide to pick which route you want to go through. So the main goal is to get to that place at the end of the day, right? So in this video, you might just want to pick whichever method that suits you or whichever one that gives you the desired fried rice you want at the end of the day. Some like it colorful, some like it's oily, some like it dry, some like it moist, right? So this is method 1, and this is the colored method for my color lovers, and this other one is just the protein fried rice. So without further wasting your time, let us get straight into the video. Of course, we have our ingredients here. Everything has been prepared. We have the rice, which of course is the main ingredient. And then we have our protein, chicken. We'll be using chicken because of the stock water. What's fried rice without stock water? Then we have vegetable oil. We'll be using that a lot today as well. Then we have our prawns. We have sweet corn. We have onions, which has been chopped. Of course, we have carrots, it's been also chopped. We have bell pepper, the green one, it's been diced as well. We have red bell pepper. We also have all seasoning powder. We'll be using that to season our chicken much more later. Then we have liver. It's been also diced into cubes. And of course, salt. What is food without salt? Then we have soy sauce. We'll be using that also later. We also have our seasoning cube. We have our ginger puree. We also have our garlic puree as well. Then we have rosemary we have dried rosemary seasoning out, and of course our spring onion. First thing we are doing is to boil our chicken. This is me adding the seasoning. This is ginger puree. I added garlic puree as well. Just basically season the chicken and with all your spices. This is all seasoning powder, and of course rosemary, and also seasoning cubes. I used 2 of it, and also then I added onions into it. And the next thing I added was salt, of course, to taste. Then I added water, lots of it, because we'll be needing the water much more later. What's fried rice without water? Right, then cover it. And then in another pot, I decided to fry the liver. So in another empty pot, I poured in oil and then fried the liver. It's just been cooked and diced. It's not been fried. So you need to fry it, to give it that color, that bright, that chocolate brown color, So this is me frying it. And yes, so I fried it for about 10 minutes, and this is it. It's been ready. So that also joins the other ingredients. So after frying it, I kept that aside. So in an empty pot, I poured in oil, about 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil. I added garlic puree and also ginger puree. So basically what I'm doing is to stir fry the prawns to just make it delicious, to give it taste. So that is me adding ginger puree, 1 tablespoon of ginger puree, and then I added the prawns into it. Then I started stirring, and then the next thing I added was seasoning, half seasoning cubes, half of it, and then also soy sauce. I added 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, and then salt to taste. So after doing that, you want to keep stirring it until the water dries up, so when it's dried, it's really cooked and delicious. So this is it. I stir fried it for about 10 minutes, And then that was it. Voila, it's done. So I removed it and also put it in a separate bowl, and I also kept that aside, so we're just still preparing our ingredients. So we're still at the stage of preparing our ingredients and making everything come together. So in another empty pan, I added one tablespoon of vegetable oil. Now it's time to stir fry the vegetables. So I added 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil. I added onions and also carrots. The first thing you want to add is the carrots. After adding onions, carrots is the next strongest vegetable, so you want it to go in first so that it cooks before the all other ingredient joins. So that is me adding 1 tablespoon of ginger puree and also 1 tablespoon of garlic puree, and then I kept stirring it before I introduced all other vegetables. So this is the liver. Remember the liver we fried? So this is me adding it into the carrots, and then I kept stirring, and then before introducing every other ingredients. So after doing that, then the next thing I added was the sweet corn. So I added sweet corn because you want it also dried a little bit. Sweet corn can be mushy and all wet and all, so you want it fried a little bit, and basically just so every other ingredient goes into it. So I added the red bell pepper as well. Then I also added the prawns. Remember the stir fried prawns? At this point I added it, and I added salt to taste. Remember, I've not added the green ones. That's because I want it to come in last. So now this is the last thing I'm adding to the stir fry, and that's because I want it to retain its color. So I added the green bell pepper, and then after a few seconds I removed it from the fire, because we don't want it to lose its vibrance, right? So I removed it from the fire, and then at this point our chicken was ready. So I drained it because we're going to be using the stock water from the chicken. What's fried rice without stock water? So at this point we drained the chicken and then kept the water aside. Now in another empty pot again, I added oil. I added about 2 cooking spoon of vegetable oil. So at this point I added onions as well into the oil. Then our rice is being thoroughly washed. Please make sure you wash your rice properly. It's not too much if you wash it 3 or 4 times, just to make sure the starch is out of it, because we are not parboiling this rice, so you have to wash it very well. So it's been washed properly, and now I poured it into the oil. So we are going to fry the rice in its raw form. Now this is the real fried rice to me. If you ask me, this is the real fried rice. So I kept stirring it. I remember we didn't parboil the rice. It's just directly into the oil like that. So you're stir frying it. You want to stir it for about 20 minutes. Just keep stirring it for about 20 minutes, just so it's properly fried with the onions and everything, just so the juice of the onions can go into it. So at this point I poured in the stock water. Remember, the water from the chicken. You're not introducing any other thing into it, except if you really need to add more water. So at this point I added salt. You can taste it. If you need to add maybe seasoning or more salt, you can as well do that. So I covered it up and then put a foil paper on it, just so it steams properly and is well cooked. So I covered it up for about 20 minutes, and then 20 minutes after I went back to my rice and then checked. So at this point you can see what it looks like. It's been properly cooked. So at this point I added, so this is it's cooked now, and so it's swollen. As you can see, I didn't add more water to it. I just left it that way. So it was just the stock water. So at this point I added our stir fried vegetables. Remember, the vegetables we stir fried. So this is me adding it to the cooked rice. So before I forget to mention, if you want to add more things to the rice while cooking, you can as well do that. If you want to add butter, you can go ahead and do that. So this is me just basically stirring it and you're not going to recook it. You're just going to leave it there for just to drain and just make sure everything simmers together. So I left it on fire for just 5 minutes after pouring the vegetables, and then I switched off the fire, and of course I added my spring onions. That's the last thing you want to add, because it just gives it this vibrancy. Spring onions just basically brings food back to life. You can see the color, it's just very colorful and vibrant. So that's it about that method. So now to method 2. These again are the ingredients. We'll be using rice. This is the prawns. This time around is king size, and also salt, stock water, bell peppers, another bell pepper, the yellow one, the green one, and carrots. And I don't know what's the use of this yellow bell pepper actually. So this is kidney beans, and also liver again. This one has been fried this time around. I actually prepared everything behind the camera. So this is also carrots, and also ginger powder, seasoning cube, turmeric. We'll be making use of turmeric this time around. So in a pot, you want to bring your water to a boil. This time around, we are boiling the rice. So when it's boiled, you're going to introduce your washed rice. This rice has been pre-washed properly. Always remember to wash your rice properly to remove the starch. So it's been washed, it's been pre-washed, and now we're adding it into the pot of boiled water. So I'm adding 1 tablespoon of turmeric. This is turmeric powder. So I'm adding 1 tablespoon. This is half tablespoon. That's just teaspoon. So that's why I'm using 2 spoons of it. So 2 makes 1 tablespoon. So that's it. I added the turmeric into the water that has the rice in it. And at this point, I forgot to add salt, so I came back again. And then I added salt. So you want to add salt to the water that has the rice, just so it gives it taste. You can see the color. So this particular method is for my color lovers. If you like your fried rice colorful and very yellow, this is the method for you. So now the rice is cooked and I drained it, and now this is what it looks like. It's been cooked but not too soft, because you're still going to fry it. So just make sure it's cooked to like 80%, and then pour it back into the pot, and then add stock water. You want to add your stock water to it, just to the level of the rice. But if you don't have enough stock water, you can always improvise and add more water. So now the rice is kept aside cooking. The rice is on its own boiling. So now while that one is cooking, let's stir fry our vegetables. So as usual, the onion goes in first, and then the carrot follows. Remember, the carrots is very hard. It takes longer time to cook, so you want to always make sure it goes in first, just so you're not eating raw carrots. So the next thing we're adding is the liver, and then we're stirring again. So after that, I also added ginger puree and garlic puree, and then the next thing we're adding is our bell pepper. To be honest with you, I don't really know the use of this yellow bell pepper because it vanishes. So the next thing is red bell pepper. I added that, and then of course sweet corn. The next thing I added is salt, just to give it taste. Then I added black pepper, which is also it's optional. You can decide not to use it. And also seasoning cube, you want to give that vegetable taste. So now we're adding kidney beans. I decided to use kidney beans this time around. And then of course our prawns. Remember, the green bell pepper is the last thing you always want to add, so that they don't lose their color. If you notice, before I added the green bell pepper, I switched off the stove so that the green bell pepper does not overcook. So at this point, everything is ready, and I also set that aside. So now let's check on our rice. So now you can see the rice is boiling. It still has water in it, right? So I decided to taste it to know if I needed to add more seasoning or not. So I added more seasoning and also salt. Because the stock water sometimes might not be enough, it might not give it enough taste. So you might just want to add a little bit of seasoning cube. So this is it. You can see it still has water in it, so that's why I added seasoning cube and also salt. So now, since it's still cooking, I decided to cover it up just so it cooks very well this time around, and I won't be needing more water. So with this now, it will cook very well. So at this point, this is 15 minutes after I came back, and voila, our rice is ready. So now we are going to pour in our stir-fried vegetables. Guys, just look at this. Look at this beauty. Just look at this. I mean, Christmas is coming. You have no option. You have to treat your guests the right way. Look at this. For my color lovers, this is for you. So at this point, you're just going to stir everything together, and you can see it's ready. It's done. So that's it about the second method. And at this point, you have to cover it back again just so it simmers together for about 5 minutes, and then voila, it's done. So at this point, remember to add your spring onions last. That's the last thing you want to add, because you don't want it to lose its color. So you're adding the spring onions, it just has a way of bringing it back to life and making everything vibrant. So that's it, guys. This is the second method. Let me know which method you prefer. Okay, as for me, I don't have a preference. It's whichever one the spirit leads. Sometimes I like this method, sometimes I like the frying method. It just depends on my mood and how much time I have. So this is it for the second method. Don't ask me where the chicken came from, right? I'll do a separate video for that one later. The chicken just came from nowhere. I didn't have much time to show you how I prepared the chicken. So this is it for the second method. So now to the third method, guys. So this time around, I want to marinate the proteins. Remember the previous ones we just stir fried them, but this time around I marinated the prawns and also the chicken and kept them aside before I even started cooking at all. So now you want to marinate your prawns. So you can decide to use whichever method you want. At the end of the day, you're still going to achieve the same thing. So you can either pre-marinate your proteins or just stir fry them at once. So these are the ingredients for the third method. So now this is our butter. We'll be using butter. We'll be using bell pepper, the green one. Of course, our rice, chopped onions, spring onions, carrots, runner beans. This time around we are using pepper, just to give it spice a little bit. Bell pepper, sweet corn, salt, seasoning cube, of course, and ginger and garlic puree, and also our seasoning water. That's the chicken stock. So this is it for the chicken. We're using just little because the rice is not much, so we're using just little chicken. So now this is time to just marinate the chicken and also keep it aside. So the first thing we want to do is to blend the pepper. Remember the green bell peppers I showed you guys. So now it's being chopped into small portions, and then we have to blend it because we will be using the juice for this particular method of fried rice. So now this is me blending the green bell pepper because I'm cooking just 2 cups of rice. I used just 2 bell peppers, 2 medium-sized bell peppers. So this is me blending the bell pepper, and then you want to pour it into a sieve just to make sure you get the juice out of it. You want to get the whole juice. I mean, we are squeezing out the juice from this bell pepper. So this is me basically just sieving the juice. You don't need a shaft, but if you like, some people use it, you can actually just pour everything into the water. But for the purpose of this video, we're not using the shaft. So this is me pouring back the shaft into the blender, adding more water to it just to make sure I've gotten the entire juice out of it. Like I told you guys, I'm getting the whole juice from this bell pepper. So this is me pouring back the shaft into the blender and then sieving it again just to be sure that everything is out. Yeah, so that's it, guys. So basically just sieving the juice out of it. So you want to do that. And if you like, you can just pour in everything. There's no rule that says you can't use the shaft to cook. Yes, you can use it. As a matter of fact, I think it even makes it greener. This other method, instead of using turmeric, which is the artificial color, you can use this method, although it won't give it as much color as the turmeric method. That one is just very colorful. You can decide to use this one as well. This one is very organic, and of course very it just makes it more delicious, right? So in an empty pan now, we're going to pour in one cooking spoon of oil, and then remember our sauteed prawns and chicken. So now it's time to stir fry them. So now we're stir frying it. Make sure it cooks to an extent. Don't let it overcook, because it's still going to go back into the rice. So you just want it to cook a little bit and then put it aside. Yeah, so this is it. This is me just basically cooking the prawns. This is a king size one. So now at this point it's done, and I am pouring it into a separate bowl. In the same pan, we're going to pour in the marinated. Remember our chicken that was marinated, so we're pouring it back into the same pan again, and also make sure it cooks. Make sure it's well cooked. So at this point it is done. This was like after 5 minutes, and then I'm pouring it back again to the same pan, and then in an empty pot this time around. Remember our chicken stock. Don't ask me where this chicken stock came from. It came from the chicken, but I didn't show you guys how I cooked it. I didn't want to waste much of your time. Just save ourselves the time and stress. I decided to cook that off camera. So this is me pouring. Remember the juice from the bell pepper, I poured it together with the chicken stock, and then I added salt to the water. I also added seasoning cube, and then I covered it up and brought it to a boil. Yes, you can see. And then now again, washed rice. Our washed rice has been washed, properly washed, and then we're pouring it into the water. You see how green it is, guys. That green color is so organic. This time around we're not using artificial colorants, we're using natural color. So this is it. You can see at this point is let's say halfway cooked. So you can just touch it to make sure it's not so soft, at the same time still not hard. So in another empty pan, we're now going to stir fry our vegetables. So now I added oil, 1 cooking spoon of oil, and I also added butter, unsalted butter. So I'm adding butter to it. So this is another method. If you like your fried rice shiny and beautiful looking, this is the method for you. This method gives it that look. And this is also another frying method. So now I poured in my vegetables. I poured in the onions and of course carrots, the runner beans, and the next thing I also poured in was the sweet corn. And so you just want to pour in everything basically and just fry everything. So that's the ginger and garlic paste, and also that's it basically. Just pour in most of your vegetables. And I added a pepper, this time around where we want to give it spice, the Yoruba in me now. So we can't just be eating butter and everything without adding pepper. So we just want to add little pepper to just spice things up if you like. But if you don't, you can, it's optional. So now the red bell pepper, and of course our prawns, and the next thing we're also adding is the prawns and chicken. Then we're adding the green pepper, which is the last thing. So now it's at this point I added seasoning cubes, just to give it taste, and salt again. So you can just add it to your taste and then stir fry everything. You can see how good looking it is. It looks so yummy. So at this point, we're adding cabbage as well. This cabbage is optional, you know, but you can choose to use it if you like. It's also very nice. I know people that use cabbage for their fried rice a lot. So this is it. We're adding the cabbage. At this point, the light was turned off under the vegetables. So now in another pot, we decide to start frying. So this is another frying method. I mean, this one is actually the frying method. So you're going to be frying it in portions. So we're frying in portions with butter. And then we're taking from the vegetables we stir fried, and then we're adding it into the rice in portions and then frying. Make sure you fry and fry and fry, and then I'm frying and then pouring it into another empty pot. Frying like that, just continue the cycle like that. Keep frying and then pouring it into another empty pot. So that's it, guys. Everything is ready. After frying in bits, this is what we have, and our fried rice is ready. This is the third method. So let me know which method you would prefer, or if there's any other method that I didn't mention, please feel free to let me know in the comment section. And that is it, guys. So at this point, we added our spring onions. Like I always say, it's the last thing you should add. You know, it just gives it that vibe, you know, that greenness, that's, you know, it just makes it so vibrant. And that's it, guys, about the 3 methods. And voila, it's ready. So let me know which one you prefer, or let me know which one you would rather want to use. So I hope this video was very helpful. And please, if you are new on this channel, thank you for stopping by. Let me know if you really like content like this, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.